On today's episode of the Mark Titus Show, it is with a heavy heart that I report that we are once again, this is hard, we are once again talking about the Purdue Boilermakers. Purdue dominates Indiana en route to the biggest win for the Boilers in Bloomington since 1934, which was so long ago. Actually, I don't think John Wooden was on the team. I think 32 was the last. I was about to say it was the year John Wooden was on the team, but I'm pretty sure 32 was his last year. Anyway, it was long enough ago that when they took pictures of basketball players, it looked like they were trying to scare you, or they're just kind of like throwing their hands out like, bleh. Like that was the pose that all the basketball players used to do back then. That gives you an idea how long ago it was that we've seen Purdue go to Bloomington and beat Indiana this badly. It's a tale of two teams, really. Like Purdue deserves the flowers. Are we still saying that? We still say that people deserve their flowers, or do we leave that in 2023? And Indiana sucks. Indiana is not a good basketball team, and they're disgusting to watch at times. I reached out to my father, Coach Titus. A lot of Purdue chatter saying get Coach Titus on the program. Let's hear his thoughts about Zach Edey doing finger guns and diving on the floor and out hustling Indiana when Purdue's up 17, and one of the worst loss, certainly the worst loss in Assembly Hall for the Hoosiers in my father's lifetime, and could not be reached. I don't know what happened. I called him. He would not take my calls. I heard through the grapevine that he, quote, did not watch the game, which is total bullshit. We know he watched the game, so I don't know. It's shocking behavior from Coach Titus. We're going to try to get to the bottom of it. The good news, if you're a Purdue fan, there is another game against Indiana coming up, and we have plenty of time to get Coach Titus on to get his real unfiltered thoughts. And I think we will, but he's going through it right now, man. He's really going through it because Indiana, again, I will say, sucks. Oh yeah, we will get Coach Titus on at some point for the next game. But yeah, he's great at what he does, which is troll people. And then when it comes time for him to get his comeuppance, he's nowhere to be found. I don't know. He's like a playground bully when it comes to IU Purdue, and that's just the way it is. Anyway, Zach Edey had another monster game. Zach Edey is running away with the National Player of the Year race, or the National Player of the Year trophy again. Obviously, it's pretty much a foregone conclusion, which is cool in the sense that, like, Zach Edey deserves all the praise, and we can shower him with praise and whatever. And there's that, but also it's a little boring. So today I want to, on the show, lay out some scenarios where Zach Edey doesn't win the National Player of the Year race. And I promise I'm not going to bring injuries into it. I promise I'm not going to bring in the apocalypse either. There's pretty much no chance that he does not win. But I'm going to flesh out the scenarios because I do think the National Player of the Year race is always a fun thing to talk about. And unfortunately, Zach Edey has killed all the suspense, killed all the fun. I'm going to do my best to try to make it fun by throwing out some candidates that I think still have a puncher's chance. Meanwhile, UCF knocks off Texas and Austin, and boy, were they not classy about it. Rodney Terry is fired up about this. The audacity to do the horns down, which is apparently, and I didn't know this until Rodney Terry got on a soapbox about it. Apparently, this is a hate crime. I didn't realize this. So if that is in fact the case, lock up the entire UCF team. Disgusting behavior from them. We have a tomfoolery crisis in college basketball right now with coaches. Nate Oates is pushing players, and Rodney Terry and Shaka's. Maybe it's not tomfoolery. Buffoonery, shenanigans. Is it monkey business? Is it funny business? What would you describe this? I don't know. I'm just seeing way too many instances of coaches making headlines for all the wrong reasons, and we got to address that. So we're going to do that on the show. We're going to go through some National Player of the Year stuff and work under the assumption that Zach Edey doesn't have it locked up, but he does. Fun show coming up. Let's get into it. All right, we're going to talk about some coaches, the Rodney Terry stuff, and the Nate Oates and Travis Ford and all these other coaches that I don't know. Just I'm not having fun. I'm not having fun observing these college basketball coaches. I don't mind. It's a complaint. It's a complaint I've had often that we're losing the characters. I think Riggs and I just talked about it earlier in the week. We're losing some characters in college basketball, and we need the backfill. We need some more characters to make up for the loss of the Boeheims and the Coach K's. But not like this. Not like this. And we'll talk about it in a second. Before we do, I just quickly, Indiana and Purdue, obviously, if you've listened to the show for a while, you know that this is a rivalry that means a lot to me. Grew up in Indiana, and mom went to Purdue, dad went to IU, yada yada. You know the story at this point. So it was a 21-point win for Purdue. It's a game that I probably shouldn't spend a lot of time on, but I will at least say this. And I said it at the top. Purdue is obviously very, very good. And Purdue, I stand by. They're going to the Final Four. Losses to Nebraska and Northwestern do not deter me from that stance that I had heading into the season, which is that the Purdue Boilermakers will make the Final Four this year. That is a fact. It is going to happen. They will lose once they're there. I just don't know if it's the Final Four game or the national championship game, but they will make the Final Four, and they will not win the national championship. Those are two facts that you can take to the bank. But yeah, Purdue. This game to me was a perfect example of where the two programs are at right at this moment. Now, Indiana last year swept Purdue, and Purdue being the number one team in the country for most of the season, I think it was kind of a perfect outcome because both by the end of the year, both fan bases sort of felt like they were in a better position. Indiana got the sweep, and Indiana did not lose to a 16 seed. In the first round of the tournament. In fact, Indiana did not play well in the NCAA tournament, but at least they lost to a team that went to the Final Four. So they had that to hang over Purdue fans. Meanwhile, Purdue wins the Big Ten. They have the National Player of the Year. They're bringing basically their entire team back. They felt pretty confident coming into the year. The offseason was great. I loved it from the sidelines because this is a rivalry, again, to me, I always felt like was one of the best rivalries in college basketball, and for various reasons through the years, it's lost a lot of juice. In the 90s, it was when I was coming of age. I mean, it was obviously in the state of Indiana, but like I think it was right up there. The only thing missing was NCAA tournament success from Purdue, really. I mean, Indiana, the back half of the 90s did not go great for Bob Knight, and then he choked a guy and got fired. But the Purdue was ripping off Big Ten championships, and Indiana had national title caliber teams that would make Elite Eights and get fucked by the refs at various times. But no, Indiana came up short a little bit on some Final Four runs, but they had banger teams, and Purdue had banger teams. Those 90s games were so good. And then since then, the rivalry lost a lot of juice, and I'm painting the picture to say that I felt like after last year, heading into this season, this rivalry was back in a big way because you have Duke and Carolina falling off a little bit. Now, Duke and Carolina are good this year, but obviously you lose Roy Williams, you lose Coach K. Carolina has the year they have last year where they missed the tournament, and there's just a lot of murky talk about where that program's at and is Hubert the guy and all that sort of stuff coming into the season. So that rivalry is, it's still great, and one bad year, 2 bad years doesn't knock you off the pedestal, but it's just like it's taking a little bit of a step back. Kentucky, Louisville, huge step back. Was never a great rivalry in the first place. I mean, it's people in Kentucky think it is. It's Louisville never wins that game. And certainly they're not winning the game anytime soon. So I felt like Purdue and Indiana was a rivalry that was in a perfect position to maybe not supplant long-term the rest of college basketball as the rivalry, but for this moment in time, this could be the rivalry. Maybe there's a world where Purdue goes and wins a national championship, say, then it gets really spicy. Anyway, long story short, I'm really upset by what happened in Bloomington. Not that Purdue won, but that Indiana just piss poor effort from almost start to finish. There was a little bit of a jolt there to start the second half. I guess Woodson must have said something at halftime to get the guys to play well. Like there's a little bit of a fight from IU coming out in the second half, but just total domination. And what makes it a bummer is that this felt like the perfect scenario, like obviously for IU to pull off the upset. They've done it 2 years in a row against Purdue in Bloomington, where Purdue is ranked higher and they're better, and IU just uses the magic of Assembly Hall and that rivalry. And now we have a guy on the bench who gets the rivalry and played here and represents us and all that, and they use that to their advantage, I guess. And they also, I mean, last year they had actually really good NBA players that helped too. But it felt like maybe you could tap into that magic this year. I mean, you got Indiana still has some individual talent. Assembly Hall is the fans bring it for big game. If a top 10 team is coming into Assembly Hall, that place is going to be fucking bonkers, no matter how good or bad Indiana is. And for IU to put up that effort was just embarrassing, really. And just really that play, that was the microcosm. The play where Purdue is up by 17. It's a loose ball. I don't know if it was C.J. Gunn, Khalil Ware, maybe it was both of them. That's my recollection of it. They're bending over at the waist to pick up the ball, and 7'4" Zach Edey just comes diving in for the loose ball and gets it and triggers a fast break, and Purdue scores. And the fact that Zach Edey, National Player of the Year, is diving all over the floor when he's up 17 and the game's out of reach, and IU guys can't be bothered to hustle was really disappointing. And yeah, like that my attitude was really just like it sucks for the rivalry, because now I expect Purdue to go back to Mackey and win by 40, and whatever momentum this rivalry had is completely gone. And it is interesting. IU fans are not happy with Mike Woodson right now, and they're not going to fire him. I mean, come on, but yeah, the honeymoon is kind of over. He had a good 2 years. I think the taste in the mouth losing to Miami and the way they did, where they just looked like they did not belong on the same court as Miami in the tournament. And then leading into this year, which has been a total stinker. And IU's got some guys. They got Mbako, the kid from Jersey, that's supposed to be really good, and Renew is good, and Khalil. Like, you look at the roster and you're like, yeah, that guy's supposed to be good, right? That guy's supposed to be good. Trey Galloway's a good role player. Like, the guard play is just not good enough, though, if we're being completely honest. Xavier Johnson is been pretty rough to watch. But yeah, that's those are my thoughts on the game. Like, Purdue's obviously better. They deserve to win. I'm bummed out, because I really felt like the rivalry had some momentum, having two guys coaching each team that played there. I don't know. It was just checking all the boxes, and then Zach Edey ruined everything, basically. Zach Edey just came in and said, watch this. Here's 33 and 14. And and finger guns, dude. He was doing a lot of finger guns. I haven't really seen him do that.
Swagging out.
He was busting out a lot of this. Yeah.
I don't even know if that's cool. Finger guns.
Finger gun? I know.
Seems kind of lame.
What would your celebration be, TJ? Like, you hit a picture. I'm picturing you're playing at the rack, right? You guys are on a 7-0 run against number 1 Purdue. You've just taken. You were down 5 when this run started, right? And now you've taken a 2-point lead, and then they swing it to you in the corner, and you hit a 3 to go up 5 with 3 minutes to play, and Matt Painter's calling timeout, and you just hit the 3, and the place is going fucking bananas.
Yeah.
What do you do?
There's 2 things that come to mind immediately. One is what Ron Harper Jr. used to do, which is shoot the arrow.
Yep.
And then also, like, some sort of, like, beer opening, like a can.
You just do Stone Colds, like. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I've never seen that one.
Finger guns, not very high on the list. Yeah.
I don't know if Zach Edey did the
He probably did the sound effects.
Yeah.
Pew, 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 pew. I selfishly was rooting for Purdue here, because I'm hoping that they can get back to number 1 on the 27th or the 28th whenever we play them. But UConn only has 1 game before then to lose. So we're big Villanova guys this week.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that would be awesome. That's
It's the only chance. If they're ranked number 2, they're going to beat us by 40. But if they're ranked number 1.
I forgot to mention part of the perfect scenario for IU to pull off the upset in this game, and for them to the stars aligned once again for IU to have a big win. Their season is in the tank, and it's like, you beat Purdue when they're ranked this high. That can save everything and put you on the right track, and just to have a piss poor effort like this is crazy. But the one thing I forgot to mention, Robbie Hummel was on the call, and we all know that when Robbie Hummel's on the call and Purdue is ranked high against playing on the road against an unranked team,
it's over.
That's the recipe, and still Purdue won by 21. That's how bad this was for IU, is that you had everything put on a platter for you. My mom, by the way, is in town. She's in Chicago. She's staying at my house this week. She's helping me move in. I was watching the game with her, and I asked her to come on the show, and she didn't want to come on the show. She's like, I don't need to. She said Zach Edey speaks for all of Purdue. She's like, I think he said in Bloomington better. He said what needed to be said better than I could on your show. So, in the interest of fairness, I thought ask Laura Legend to come in studio and talk her shit, and she said, I don't need to. The boys talk the shit for me. So, all right, we're going to talk about the National Player of the Year candidates in a second. Before we do, I do want to talk about these coaches acting a fool. It's something that is taking over college basketball, and maybe it's not. Like, maybe it is just like the way the media works, where you only see the bad stuff and like the examples of coaches that are in their post-game press conference praising other players and saying all the quote-unquote right things. That doesn't get shared as much. That's not as fun, and it's just all the bullshit that we see that's being spread around. But yeah, in calling for characters in college basketball, I did not have this in mind. I did not have like this run that we're on here where like Shaka Smart is getting out on the court, and Shaka's a good dude. Like, I don't think Shaka's he's not ill-intentioned with all of this. He just is a little over energetic, if we're being honest. That's really all it is. He's just wound up. He just wants to help his boys play defense. All that's fine and well. I think it comes from a good place. He's still all over the court, and he's playing defense, and he's swiping at the ball and maybe or maybe not affecting the game, but the fact that we have to debate it is already a little crazy. So you got that going on. Meanwhile, Travis Ford's doing the same thing for St. Louis. They're playing Dayton, and he's out there stomping his foot at shooters and swipe and just he's acting a fool. That happened just the other day. Nate Oates pushes a Missouri player. There's a fight, and I use that term very, very loosely. It was not a fight at all, really. It was just like is a brouhaha worse than a fight or less intense?
There was a
scuffle?
Extracurriculars. I like when the NFL commentators say that when there's a fight happening.
Yeah, just a little extracurriculars. Nothing crazy. Just a little extracurriculars. That's going on, and Nate Oates comes in, pushes the Missouri player out of the way as though he was, trying to de-escalate the situation. And I think a good way to de-escalate a situation where nobody's putting hands on anybody is to come in and be the guy that puts hands on everybody. That's always a great strategy. So you got Nate Oates pushing people out of the way, and then just last night we get Rodney Terry, or this is 2 nights ago.
As you're listening to this.
Yeah, last night, 2 nights ago, as you're listening to this, whatever. My brain gets messed up with timelines. Whatever. This week, UCF beats Texas. The UCF guys are doing the horns down to celebrate, which is pretty standard. It's a pretty, we've seen this a million times. Rodney Terry just goes off, tells them it's classless in the handshake line, big time Coach K, Dylan Brooks vibes, where you just lose to these guys, and then now you're trying to lecture them on what it means to be classy. And maybe even if you are right, like who the fuck are you to like in this moment scold these guys for being excited for pulling off the win? Like, calm down, buddy. Really, really crazy that Rodney Terry. I mean, this doesn't undo everything, but Rodney Terry was like kind of he was in a great spot, man. Like, he got, if we're being completely honest, he got extremely lucky. Chris Beard was not a great guy. Gets fired from Texas in the middle of the year when Texas had a great basketball team last year. Texas goes on an Elite Eight run, and at a time where Rodney Terry is interim basketball coach, and he did a great job keeping that team together and had some National Coach of the Year buzz there for a second. And they throw him the full-time job. And if we're being completely honest, I don't know if that was enough for him to deserve the full-time job, but you kind of had to do it. You had to do it. The players loved him. He goes to the Elite Eight. Everything was going well. And I'm just saying all that to say, like, the way last season ended was Rodney Terry was kind of like that dude, man. Like, he was a guy that was beloved. Or if you didn't know much about him, you're like, I don't know, it seems like a good situation that he's not that other guy. The other guy sucked, and now this guy's here, and he's going to the Elite Eight. That's cool. Good for him. And now there's this, and we get the lecture about the horns down, and I don't understand it. I don't know what it is about Texas fans. I guess it's not Texas fans, like, because there probably are a lot of Texas fans that are like, I don't care. I hate that our coaches and administrators and everybody involved in an official capacity at the university gets such a dump in their pants about horns down. But it just keeps happening over and over, and there seems to be no understanding that the more you complain about it, the more people are going to do it, and that's the part that's crazy to me. So, I don't know what's going on with these coaches, and you got and this isn't anywhere close to the same level. So apologies in advance to Purdue fans, but we're on the topic of just coaches making the wrong kind of headline. The Matt Painter complaining about the court storming. I know he said that, like, I'm pro court storming, but, you know, at the same time, he did say I'm pro court storming. I just wish it was a little safer. But at the same time, it's like, if you're pro court storming, why are we talking about court storming after you just lost and got the court stormed on you? Like, it's a little. I would take your message better if you delivered it at a different time, Matt. That's all. But yeah, you got that going on. Mick Cronin is just a crusty old bitch in general at all times. Like every press conference he's doing is classic Mick Cronin, but it's like not fun because they're not winning, and that's really a problem for me. Mick Cronin is so much more enjoyable when like his teams are winning, but they're not winning enough for his liking. And right now they're just not winning. Although they did just beat Arizona State, which I guess leads me to the kind of characters we need. Bobby Hurley, I don't know if you saw this, TJ, but Bobby Hurley was doing Scarface quotes after they lost to UCLA. He was doing in his post-game press conference, he was doing he was talking about, like, he was acknowledging the shitty refs, but didn't want to acknowledge the shitty refs, and he was just like, I don't want to say how I'm feeling. I don't want to say how I'm feeling. All I know is we're the bad guys. I guess we were the bad guys. Who's the bad guys? And he started talking about how Arizona State is the bad guys, which I think he was trying to say the refs treat us like the bad guys, and UCLA are the golden boys of the Pac-12. I don't know what I don't know. I think he just kind of got on a roll and then just fell to Scarface.
At least he didn't tell us how he felt.
Yeah, but he didn't want to tell us how he really felt. But I wanted to point that out as that's a good example of a coach being a character, because he's just like blowing off some steam. He's not actually like explicitly bitching about anything. He's just like being, I don't know, that one worked for me. He was just like just enough of a bozo that like I'm laughing at him but also with him at the same time, and that's the perfect combination for me for these coaches' rants. That one was a good one. Rick Pitino saying he'd rather die than lose another game. That's a good one. But far too often these coaches are making headlines for the wrong reasons, and I don't know. I just feel like we're at a crisis right now where we need. I don't know if we need positivity. Do we need more Rick Pitino? Rick Pitino has figured it out. It is interesting that Rick says some like funny stuff, but it's always like a good funny. It's never complete. I don't know what to do. We need Tony Bennett to be better. I need more sound bites from Tony Bennett where it just kind of like cools the temperature of everything. But having the stretch we're on right now, where Travis Ford's out on the court, and Shaka Smart's on the court, and Nate Oates is pushing people, and Rodney Terry's bitching. I don't like it. I'll say it. I just don't like it. And you got Kim Mulkey on the other side, the women's game, talking shit about Caitlin Clark. Boy, Kim Mulkey. I did not even mean to mention her name, but now I got a lot of thoughts going through my head about that woman that I will go ahead and not share because I like being employed. Anyway, that's that on the coaches. Now let's get to the fun stuff. I want to talk about the National Player of the Year race. That's really not a race. It's pretty much over. It's Zach Edey has lapped the field, and barring catastrophe, blown out a couple tires, runs out of gas. I don't know what it's going to take, but Zach Edey has won National Player of the Year. And as I've said throughout this season, I continue to find that fascinating because so often with these awards, you get the voter fatigue. You get the guy who's already won it, and this is especially true of the Heisman. You win the Heisman, you can almost guarantee you're not going to win the next year unless you are just have an otherworldly year where across the board your numbers are just too good to deny. And even then, I feel like the way the Heisman chatter works, everyone's kind of looking for another guy to give it to. So you have to just remove all doubt if you want to win Heisman number 2. And that's not necessarily the case with Zach Edey. And I don't say that to say Zach Edey doesn't deserve this. I just find it fascinating that, like, we're not even trying as a college basketball community. We've all given up. Nobody's even trying to figure out who would be the second guy. And I've even said that on a few recent shows where I'm just like, yeah, I wouldn't even know who would be number 2, who even has any sort of chance at winning it. And I heard myself say that enough times to think, you know what I should do is I should figure that out. I should sit down and I should hash out my list of guys that I believe have a chance, and by a chance I mean 0.1% chance. But yeah, who's number 2? What are the scenarios I see that like guys might be able to dethrone Zach Edey as National Player of the Year, which again is not going to happen. Edey has basically the exact same stats he had last year. Purdue is basically the exact same team at this point in the season that they were last year, both in terms of their record, although I think at this point last year they'd only lost the 1 game to Rutgers, and they have 2 losses obviously this year. But the strength of schedule, the non-conference stretch, where last year they did the PK 85 and they beat Gonzaga and Duke, and I think West Virginia had a good team last year and they beat them. And they just go through like a non-conference gauntlet where they were just knocking off everybody, and they come out of it unquestionably the number 1 team in the country. The same thing happened this year. I mean, their non-conference schedule, they've beaten a lot of really, really good teams. So looking at it, the full picture, I mean, the Zach Edey National Player of the Year candidacy from last year, which was a no-brainer by the end of the year, looks very, very similar to this year, except this year he's somehow even more efficient and better. He's a better player this year. So he's going to win it. But, again, let's just pretend he doesn't. So here's how I have it tiered right now. I have 3 tiers. Tier 1 is the only realistic shots. And by that I mean probably still not realistic, but like these, literally I think that these are the only guys that, even if Zach Edey just suddenly lost all of his talent and only scored 5 points every game from here on out, and it suddenly became an interesting race, I do believe that these are the only guys that could, even in that scenario, have a chance of winning National Player of the Year. Just realistically with the path we're on and where we're at right now. The tier 2 is the vibes guys, where they're great. They do have they have like a very similar candidacy as the realistic guys, except if we're being completely honest with ourselves, a lot of their candidacy rests on just the vibes. Just when we're watching them, we're getting fired up watching them, and you got to throw the numbers out. They do have good numbers, but like really, the number 1 bullet point on the resume is going to be vibes. And then the third tier is no chance whatsoever, but they're having a great year and deserve recognition. And those guys literally have 0% chance of winning National Player of the Year. But, you know, I'll throw them on the list because they are playing very good basketball right now. All right, so here's how I see it. At number 1 on my National Player of the Year contender to knock off Zach Edey, I think it is Kevin McCullough of Kansas. Kansas is 15-2. They lost to UCF. Hurts a little bit lately, but they're still number 3 in the country. He's averaging about 20 points a game, 19.8, 6.5 rebounds, 4.7 assists per game, 1.5 steals per game. He's shooting 48% from the field, 36% from 3, 85% from the free throw line. Every single game this year, he has scored double figures. He has been very, very consistent for Kansas, and all of this is interesting to me because everything I've said so far is an offensive. Is on the offensive end of the floor, and Kevin McCullough's calling card, or at least it has been for most of his career, has been defense, and he was brought to Kansas to be like the defensive guy, and he's probably not quite as good on defense as he's been in the past this year, but still, that just like speaks to how great of a player he is all around, that he can be, when he needs to be, one of the best defenders in the country, and on top of that, he's a triple-double threat in college basketball, which is something that's where do we land on that? Is that hard to do or not hard to do? It's like kind of hard, but also the guys who are doing it aren't the guys you would think would be doing it. Anyway, Kevin McCullough is a triple-double threat, and he's doing this playing 35 minutes a game on a team that has 4 players that Bill Self likes, and he's one of them. And if he is not awesome every single night Kansas takes the floor, Kansas is in not deep trouble, but they're hurting. And that is true of any team they play. They need Kevin McCullough to be awesome to have a chance, and he is. He's awesome every time every game. Like the game against Kentucky, I think was one of his worst scoring or shooting nights, if not his worst game he's had of the year. He had like 12 points, I want to say, but that was a triple double game. So even that's how good he is. When he's not playing well, he's not scoring well. He still finds other ways to impact the game. So his path to me is this. His candidacy rests on him being the best player on the best team in the best conference. I think it boils down to that. I think like in totality, you look back on, the first week of March comes around, we're voting on these awards, and we look back and we're like, damn, Kansas did it again. They won the Big 12 again, and this is with Houston now, and this is with BYU, a good BYU team now, and UCF's in the mix, who's already beaten Kansas and just beat Texas, and Cincinnati's good, and you're looking at the whole of the Big 12, and once again, the Big 12 is head and shoulders better than everybody, and Kansas came out ahead and won the conference by 2 games, and so you look at Kevin McCullough, and he's putting up monster numbers for the team that won the best conference. Meanwhile, like maybe the Big Ten, and I don't even know if this is a maybe, it certainly it feels that way. The Big Ten isn't quite as good, and maybe that's the conversation we're having is like, yeah, Zach Edey put up monster numbers, and Zach Edey's great, but for Kevin McCullough to do this night in and night out in the Big 12, man, what a gauntlet that was. And then I think he's got to sprinkle in a couple more triple-doubles because people do love triple-doubles. A triple-double goes a very, very long way in your legacy or like your stature. Triple doubles are intoxicating. They still are. I put them on the fraud power rankings. I don't think it really works. I think when triple doubles happen, you're better off going 10-10-10 than like 48, 26, and 8.
Yeah.
Because people are like, triple double, dude. If you're so good, why didn't you get 2 more rebounds?
You get a graphic made for just achieving a triple double, even if it's 10-10.
Right. 10-10-10 gets you a graphic made. Otherwise, it starts to get a little hazy. You have to basically score 40 if you don't have the triple double.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you're 30, 31, 9, and 5.
I don't know if that's true.
It's a good game.
I think it's just 31 points. I think at that point we're just talking about 31 points.
Right, yes.
We're not talking about the others. So I think that's Kevin McCullough's path. That's his candidacy is the best player on the best team in the best conference. At number 2 on my list, in tier 1, the only realistic shots, Kyle Filipowski. Duke has fallen out of favor a little bit. They are still going to end up being very good. I've said so far through the season, I think Duke's a little soft, but we don't need to really revisit that. But I'm still trying to figure out how good Duke is and are they actually a national title contender, or are they just a collection of pretty good players? I'm still trying to figure them out as a team. What I'm not trying to figure out, though, and what I was certain of from the start of the season is Kyle Filipowski is that dude. He's averaging 18-9, 3 assists, 2 blocks, over a steal a game. Duke's 13-3. They lost at Arkansas, bad Arkansas team. Kind of a bad loss, made worse by the fact that like Auburn goes into Bud Walton and destroys Arkansas. So even if you're trying to make the argument that like, sure, Arkansas is bad, but it's so hard to go into Bud Walton. Well, Auburn kind of ruined that. They lose at Georgia Tech when Proctor got hurt, and that not a great Georgia Tech team. So that kind of dings Duke as a team. Whatever. They obviously lost at home to Arizona early in the season. But yeah, Duke's still going to be in the mix. To me, they're pretty obviously the second best team in the ACC, if not ultimately prove themselves to be the best and knock off Carolina. But Carolina's in the driver's seat right now. But yeah, Filipowski shooting 51% from the field, 41% from the 3-point line, which I don't love. Longtime listeners know that I do not like it when guys shoot better than 40% from the 3-point line. That's telling me you're not shooting enough. You should be gunning more. And that's what Filipowski needs to do. He's only shooting 3 threes per game, and he's shooting 41% from 3. The path is this for Kyle Filipowski. Duke wins the ACC. His advantage is he is going to be playing in the games that people are watching, whereas Zach Edey will be playing on Peacock like 30 more times this season. So he has that because he's going to be at Duke, and Duke is always on ESPN, always. And if Duke wins the ACC, if Filipowski has big games against Clemson and P.J. Hall, and obviously against Carolina and Armando Bacot, the first Carolina game, by the way, is February 3rd. The first Clemson game, and I don't know if they play 2, but I know they do play Clemson here coming up January 27th. If he has big games against the 2 other good teams in the conference, that he needs to do that. He has to do that. It's not if. He must do that. He's got to get his scoring up a little bit, I think. He's got to get it over 20. There's something about seeing 18.2 versus, like, 20.2. Like, just that a 2-point difference would go a long way. Now he's on the right track. Back-to-back games, 26 points at Pitt, 30 versus Georgia Tech in these two most recent games. But he just doesn't rebound well enough, and I think part of the thing with when you're voting on big guys for National Player of the Year awards, and Oscar Tshiebwe proved this, voters overvalue rebounds so much. They just can't get enough of fucking rebounds, dude. You get a big guy, especially guys that are averaging 10. If you get a big guy that's averaging 20 and 10 like Edey is, you just can't deny it. You look at it and you're just like, I mean, oh my God, 11 rebounds a game. That's incredible. We've never seen this before. And then as it turns out, you see it all the time. But voters love big dudes who rebound. And Filipowski is not bad. He's averaging 9 a game. But if you're not going to average 10 rebounds a game, you got to average 20 points a game. And we need more scoring out of him. But I think the other part of his candidacy that will help, beyond playing at Duke, beyond being on television all the time, and having, like, 2 games against Carolina that will probably be the 2 most watched regular season games in college basketball this year. Maybe there's a world where he gets rewarded for coming back to school when he could have been a first rounder, and the voters are like, we as a college basketball community need to acknowledge these guys, so we're gonna give a little favor to Kyle Filipowski when the voting comes along. So that's my path for Flip. I love, like, I'm kind of a broken record talking about Duke. I kind of hit the same points over and over, I know, but I'm going to do it again. Like, he makes it very hard to hate Duke because I think he's a likable dude, and he's very fun to watch. So I have him at number 2 on my list. Now, hard pivot away from the likable guys for number 3. Hunter Dickinson at Kansas. Who's done better? I gotta start there. Hunter's done better. Hunter's making strides.
He's almost not unlikable.
Yeah.
Just because he's been quiet.
Yeah.
Which I think is a Bill Self influence. But he's just, you almost don't even hear about him.
Yeah, I got to be honest. Like, I've gotten to the point now where it's just inertia. It's inertia hate for Hunter, where it's like, I don't even remember. Like, if you ask me why I don't like Hunter, I don't even know if there's something I can point to this season.
No.
It's all like, it's starting to become like the distant past. So kudos to him for that, for doing the bare minimum of not being the worst, the absolute worst, like he was all those years at Michigan. But Hunter Dickinson is number 3 on my list. Another Kansas guy. Now that's the issue. That right there is the problem. Is McCullough and Dickinson. They could sort of do like a Shaq and Kobe thing where iron sharpens iron, and they both pulled each other up, and it's like a maybe the college basketball version shouldn't be Shaq and Kobe. It should I should say Shane Battier and Jay Williams type deal, where you got 2 guys on the same team that are these the 2 best players in the country on the same team that we're seeing? But also you're walking a very fine line of cannibalizing each other. Of how can Kevin McCullough be so important to his team when his teammate is averaging 19 points a game and 12 rebounds per game? You know, Titus, you just said Kevin McCullough is the best player on Kansas, but what I'm seeing from Hunter Dickinson, 2 assists a game. He's shooting 44% from the 3-point line. He needs to shoot more, by the way, more threes. How can Kevin McCullough be the best team when the best player on Kansas when Hunter Dickinson's the best player on Kansas? Yeah, good point, I guess. I think Kevin McCullough is better, but that's the problem with the Kansas guys. Now Hunter's path is a little different from McCullough's because I think McCullough's he's got the triple double angle and the consistency and like kind of the heart and soul of Kansas. Like DeJuan Harris, I think might be the heart. No, I'm talking to myself. So let me think this through. DeJuan Harris is the heart of Kansas. Is Kevin McCullough the soul of Kansas? And Hunter Dickinson? No, KJ Adams is the body. No, Kevin McCullough is the. I got it. DeJuan Harris is the heart of Kansas, obviously. That much we know. I think KJ Adams is the body of Kansas. That's the body. The brain, so one is the brain and one is the soul between McCullough and Hunter. I don't know what Hunter really is in this analogy. Maybe he's the body? I don't know, dude. I thought I had it there for a second. Anyway, McCullough is like kind of the straw that stirs the drink. I'm searching for these. What are some fucking idioms or quips that these guys use when they talk about players? The engine that makes them go, is that one?
The voice.
The voice, yeah. Dickinson's just like a really, really great player who happens to play for Kansas. McCullough's like the guy for Kansas. That's how I see it. Anyway, Dickinson's path is this for me. He's a household college basketball name from his time at Michigan, was All-American at Michigan, the biggest transfer this offseason going to Kansas. He's a household. If such a thing exists for college basketball players in 2024, Hunter Dickinson is that. It's him and Zach Edey are like the two names that everybody that pays attention to college basketball would know. And he's playing for a household brand, and that matters. That stuff does matter. He's also had big games against Zach Edey. When Hunter Dickinson and Zach Edey have played each other, Edey does not definitively have the upper hand on the head-to-head matchups. In fact, I would argue that Dickinson pretty obviously has it in my estimation. Now Purdue, I think I haven't gone back and actually looked at the win-loss record and all that, but Hunter's he's never really had a bad game. If memory serves, because he's every time they played, he's like put up some big numbers. I think Michigan beat him a couple years ago. I think Purdue beat him last year. This is something I probably should have looked up before I talked about it. But no, Dickinson's played well against Edey. That helps. If Kansas wins like 30 games this year, again in the toughest conference in college basketball, and maybe McCullough has some stinker games, I think Dickinson's going to need Kevin McCullough to not play well, and Dickinson saves the day. He kind of had a save the day thing against TCU. Hits the game winner when he traveled and also pushed off, and neither one were called. That was good. That was a good start. We need more of that if Hunter Dickinson's going to win National Player of the Year. But yeah, it's going to be hard, man, to be on the same team with a guy like Kevin McCullough, and you're winning National Player of the Year when you're kind of not even the best player on your own team. But we have been there before with oh boy, here we go. That was a take I had a long time ago, TJ, was that Mikal Bridges is better than Jalen Brunson in college. And Villanova fans did not like that. But I thought it was really funny because I was like gassing up their other guy, you know. It's like a funny they took it as me like shitting on Jalen Brunson, and I was actually just saying Mikal Bridges is so good. And then Jalen Brunson's better than him in the NBA now, right? But he also gets the ball more and gets like more freedom to do whatever he wants. Yeah, he's probably better. But Mikal Bridges is awesome. Mikal Bridges is. But yeah, that was a big thing. I remember arguing that Jalen Brunson can't win National Player of the Year because Mikal Bridges is better than him. He has a teammate better than him. That's where we're at with Kansas. Maybe one of these guys. Maybe one of the. I don't know if both of them are going to be first team All-Americans, but maybe one of them makes it onto the team and then onto the first team, and one's on the second team, and then we all get to argue about how the guy on the second team is actually better than the guy on the first team. I don't know. Anyway, that's my tier one. I think those are the only three. I think those are the only three realistic shots. I think it's Kevin McCullough, Kyle Filipowski, and Hunter Dickinson. But then there's like kind of an asterisk to these next tier where they kind of have a realistic shot, but it's got to be vibes. Just like, I don't even know what I mean by that, but the vibes have to be right. It has to be like the big games on the big stage are worth 2.5 times what a normal game is worth. It's just like the narrative. We need some push from the narrative. We need all that sort of stuff. And at number 4, the top of my vibes, guys, is Dalton Connect. It is Dalton Connect. Tennessee is 13-4. They're number 6 in the country. Dalton Connect is averaging 18.5, which at Tennessee, there needs to be like a Tennessee Rick Barnes coefficient for scoring, where if you're averaging 18.5 in Knoxville, you should get like a +7 added to that. Whatever you're averaging for Tennessee, just like +7 points a game, because you're doing it in a Tennessee jersey. So like in my head, Dalton Connect's averaging like 25 a game. But yeah, he's shooting 42% from the 3-point line, shooting 81. He's shooting 49, 42, 81 are shooting splits. Just in these last 2 games he's played, he had 36 at Georgia on Saturday, 39 versus Florida at home on Tuesday. Just on an absolute tear right now. He is his candidacy is this, and we need him to up his scoring a little bit more. You can't be known as like the scorer and the guy that can drop 40 on any given night, even though he technically hasn't dropped 40 yet this year. You can't be known as that guy and then be outscored by Zach Edey, the guy you're trying to supplant. Like Zach Edey is kind of an all-around guy. Dalton Knecht is the scorer. And, yes, he's playing for Tennessee. He's carrying the offense. If you know ball, you would know that Dalton Knecht scoring 18.5, just from a pure scoring standpoint, way more impressive than Zach Edey scoring 22 with the talent he has around him and the offensive scheme Purdue has. And, it's Dalton Knecht's numbers should be – I need to come up with my own algorithm because 18.5 points per game does not look right on paper when you watch Dalton Knecht play. But his candidacy is this. His path is he is the number one text your buddy to throw on the game because he's getting hot guy in college basketball. That is Dalton Knecht. Dalton Knecht has the ability to have like 17.5, and you're calling your friends and you're like, listen, dude, I don't know what you're doing if you're out to dinner. I don't know what you got going on, but get to a TV and turn this on because Dalton Knecht's going off right now. He is the number one guy for me in college basketball that has that, and I think that matters. I think that is something that is very important because this is a sport where people love to bitch about all the brick shots and the ugly, unwatchable basketball. And if you have a guy that can cut through all of that and just electrify the country, that matters. Now, Dalton Knecht is not quite there yet. He's not a Jimmer. He's not a J.J. Redick. He's not a Adam Morrison. He's not quite on their level yet. But that would be the path. Is like he's gotten close. The Carolina game, great example. He goes on the road. What did he have at Carolina? Like 30? Was that 37 he had at Carolina? I gotta look that up now. I think he had, because he got hurt and the comeback was kind of on for Tennessee, but not fully on. He did have 37. Good memory, Mark. You did it again. You son of a bitch. Yeah, he had 37 at Carolina, and that was a great example of like a guy rising to the moment. Those are the games you got to have if you're going to win National Player of the Year. But those were like that was like the Redick model all that entire season for him at Duke was just those massive games where everybody's watching, and he's going off and you're calling your buddies and everything. Dalton Knecht's not quite there consistently, and that's the number one thing we gotta get with him. He's had just as many games where he scored 25 plus as he has where he scored fewer than 10 points. So we got to find the middle ground more where it's like every night he goes out, he's about at 20 points at least. But then every so often he can dip into the 30s and the mid-30s and knock on the door at 40. And we get him more consistent. I think he's got a puncher's chance, especially when you consider he was brought to Knoxville to basically save the offense. It was him and Jordan Gainey. They get in the transfer portal. Gainey hasn't been really a lightning rod offensively like they were hoping. Dalton Knecht has. If Tennessee goes on to win an SEC that is very deep, Reegs and I talked about it. The conference is super deep, super competitive at the top. Tennessee wins the SEC after last year where they go 11-7. They finish fourth in the conference, tied with Vandy, tied with Missouri. And then this year they win a very deep SEC with great teams like Kentucky and Auburn and Bama and all the others. And Dalton Knecht scoring like 22 a night, like he gets his scoring average up and he gets a little more consistent. That's a hell of a case, man. Like I don't think he's going to beat Zach Edey, obviously, but the fact that he's just brought in to save the offense and he's single-handedly night in and night out carrying this team offensively, and Tennessee wins the SEC, that's at least first-team All-American. I mean, I'm throwing him on the first-team All-American list for sure. So yeah, that's a Dalton Knecht thing. It's going to ultimately be vibes though. It's going to be games like the Carolina game, except Tennessee wins it. Games like Adam Morrison and Maui, when he goes on that run, and like those sorts of things matter. It's like you step up in the big moments and then they linger. And then we as a viewing public and we as a voting block for these awards are more willing to forgive your stinker games that happened on ESPN Plus that no one was really watching, but we looked in the box score and saw that you went 3 for 11. We're more willing to forgive those because, goddamn, did you see what he did against Kentucky? he had 38 against Kentucky. Oh my God, that was with all those pros on the floor. He was the best player on the floor. Oh my, he's got to step up in those moments. So that's the Dalton Knecht path. Number 5 on my list, Tristan Newton, who is started out the season super hot. UConn, obviously the number 1 team in the country. I think his candidacy is kind of obvious. Like if he's going to win it, like UConn just emerges, not even emerges. They've already emerged. But like the case of UConn being, Purdue loses a couple more games that they shouldn't lose. They go to Rutgers and lose again. They lose at home a couple times maybe. And UConn just continues to win and win and win and win. And March rolls around and we're like, damn, UConn's about to run this back and win another national title. And Tristan Newton he's only averaging 15 a game right now, but he's also averaging like almost 7 rebounds and almost 6 or 7 assists a game. All-around player, triple-double thing again with him that McCullough has. But his is ultimately – I put him on the vibes list because UConn, first of all, is just like a vibes program in general. UConn is just one of those programs that's just a vibes program. And, if Tristan Newton – has his moment in Madison Square Garden, which isn't going to happen against St. John's, but could happen in the Big East tournament. He has those moments, and he if UConn, I mean like UConn as a team doesn't really have to do anything else. They're already the number 1 team in the country. But if his whole candidacy is just I'm the best player on the number 1 team in the country, we're the defending national champions, and oh by the way, we don't win the national championship without me last year. Not to say that he was the best player on the team last year, but if he's not playing well through that NCAA tournament run, UConn does not win the national championship. They needed him to play well to be as dominant as they were. I think that's his path, is just using the UConn machine, using the defending national champions status, using Danny Hurley, using that fan base to just kind of be annoying as fuck, if we're being completely honest. I think that's the path. Is like Tristan Newton is just balling out, and like UConn fans won't shut the fuck up about it. And they're just chirping at everybody, trying to get everybody's attention. And then it works, and we all start watching UConn a little more closely. We all start taking Tristan Newton a little more seriously as National Player of the Year candidate. He was awesome at the start of the year and very much was the National Player of the Year good. And he's fallen off. The only thing, he did score 0 points against DePaul. Now, UConn beat DePaul by like 30. DePaul sucks, and it's not like he played bad. Like whatever. I'm not saying that he sucked, but I just don't know if there's a world where a National Player of the Year can have a game where he scores 0 points. That just doesn't compute with my brain. So that's going to be an uphill battle. But I'm throwing Tristan Newton in the vibes category because I think he's got great vibes. I think UConn as a program has great vibes. And that's ultimately how he's going to compete for this award, is just that machine that they have there in Stores pushing him to the top. Number 6, last guy in my vibes, the vibes guys tier, is R.J. Davis, who is averaging 20 points a game for Carolina, now number 4 in the country. Go back and find those tapes. Can we get Social to pump those out of all the times where I was high on Carolina after they're losing to Kentucky and I was like, I like this Carolina team a lot. And would you look at that? I'll be damned. They're 6-0. They're in first place in the ACC. They're number 4 in the country. R.J. Davis is shooting 44% from the field, 42% from the three-point line, 96% from the free throw line. He's just an incredible, incredible shooter. He's on an absolute tear right now. And in the 3 losses, Carolina's lost 3 games. The 3 losses, he scored 23 points, 26 points, 27 points. He's a scoring machine. The path for R.J. Davis is this. Carolina last year loses their leading scorer and quote-unquote face of the program, which I think is fair. I think saying Caleb Love was like the face of the Hubert Davis era of North Carolina basketball is fair, and maybe it's just because of one shot over Mark Williams in the Final Four to send Coach K out a loser. Maybe that's the only reason we're saying that, but Caleb Love was that dude for Carolina. Carolina last year was one of the most disappointing teams in college basketball history. They only won 20 games. They started the season number 1 in the country, and they lose their leading scorer from that team. Now, given the context, we all kind of know what happened there, but that's not. I am RJ Davis's PR firm right now, so we're not bringing that up. We're trying to paint the picture of how bleak it was and how the savior that is RJ Davis came along and fixed everything. So last year, they're a disaster of a team. They lose their leading scorer. We won't mention the transfers they brought in that helped. We're just gonna say it was basically the same core comes back this year. The guy they lose, who was the leading scorer last year, transfers to a team that is also awesome this year. He's averaging 18 points a game for that team. So it's not like he just fell off a cliff. He's still a great basketball player, averaging 18 a game for a team that was number 1 in the country at one point this season. And yet, in spite of that, Carolina is way better. RJ Davis is way better, and the reason Carolina is way better is RJ Davis is way better. I mean, like that's kind of the candidacy. Is like last year we were a mess. We lose Caleb Love, and now we're awesome. And the reason why is because I'm cooking, dude. I'm the one doing it all. And again, we're not going to mention the people they bring in, and we're not gonna talk about that. We're just going to talk about that being the reality that Carolina is in the driver's seat of the ACC. RJ Davis is going to have monster games against Duke. I mean, that's goes without saying. That's when all the eyeballs are going to be on him. But yeah, he's got the same thing Filipowski has, which is playing at a blue blood program that's always going to be on ESPN. He'll have his chances, and one thing we know about RJ Davis, he will take those chances and he will pour in points, man. And I don't expect Carolina to go undefeated in conference play. They're undefeated right now, obviously. At some point, they're going to lose some games they shouldn't. They're going to fall victim to what's going on with everybody else in college basketball, which is just losing to teams you frankly shouldn't lose to. But RJ Davis has been an absolute monster all season, and dude, he's shooting 96% from the free throw line. That's crazy. He's just like lighting. He's having a very, very, very insane shooting season. Now I want to look up Salim Stoudemire. Sorry.
They vote on this award before the end of or at the end of the regular season.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a miscarriage of justice when it comes to who are the stars in college basketball.
I think it's at the end of the. I think it's at the end of. I thought it was at the end of the conference tournament, but maybe it's not. Because I was talking about Tristan Newton having a big conference tournament run, but no, maybe it's not. It is the end of the regular season. That is a miscarriage. You're right.
It should be at the end of everything because there are guys. I mean, like that the public doesn't even get to know about until they hit March Madness. Obviously, like a Marquise Noel or something like that. I feel like Dalton Connect is that type of guy this year, where you said, you have to text your friends when he's going off. Like, right. He's going to have a game or two depending on how they do in the tournament. Even the SEC tournament, where it's like, okay, this is the best player of all time.
Yeah, you're right. They gotta wait for conference tournaments at least, because I don't think they do.
What's the point of them announcing it during March Madness when they're still playing? To me, that doesn't make any sense.
Let me check I used to vote on one.
Really?
Yeah, I voted on the Wooden Award. I used to be a Wooden Award voter.
What happened?
Yeah, they I don't know what happened. They told me I said on a podcast that I lost my vote, and then the Wooden Award reached out and they're like, "No, you didn't. You're just not voting." Because I said it like a couple years ago. I was just like, I used to have a Wooden Award vote, and then I lost it, and then they immediately reached out to me and they're like, "Bro, you still have your vote?" And I was like, "Oh, really?" But I'm trying to go through Wooden Award vote information. I voted in 2019. Here's my ballot from 2019. You do vote at the end of the year, maybe, because I voted. The vote was recorded Monday, March 25th, 2019. That's interesting.
So that's
voting closes today. Poll closes today in 2022. The poll close date was March 21st. So, what is that, like, up until
Sweet 16?
Up until the Sweet 16 you vote on it? I don't know what the Naismith is. I don't know what their thing is. Anyway, I got distracted because I was looking at RJ Davis' shooting splits, and he's shooting 96% from the free throw line and 42% from three. And 44% from the field. Just insane for a guy that's like 6 foot tall. And then it reminded me that Salim Stoudemire in 2005, and I wanted to get the numbers in front of me because, again, Salim Stoudemire was like basically the same size as RJ Davis. I wanted to call this to your attention, TJ, but also everybody watching and listening that does not know a lot about Salim Stoudemire. Salim Stoudemire in 2005 averaged 18.4 points per game for Arizona. A good Arizona team. This was an Arizona team that won the Pac-12, won 30 games, went to the Elite Eight and lost to Illinois in the historic Illinois, just all-time classic game. On that 2005 Arizona team, so I said that to say, like, he wasn't putting up numbers, it's not like he was losing a bunch and just, like, getting his whatever. He was playing winning basketball. He averaged 18 points a game, shot 12 shots per game, and shot 50% from the field, shot 50.4% from the three-point line on 6.6 attempts, and shot 91% from the free throw line. Fucking bonkers. Just absolute fucking bonkers. And I made a promise to myself that if I ever have a chance to remind people about Salim Stoudemire's 2005 shooting season, I would always take that opportunity, and that just happened when I was talking about RJ Davis. So, anyway, RJ Davis, vibes guy. I think he is in that mold of the Salim Stoudemire, the red, like he can get hot at a moment's notice. I do think, like, if he continues to shoot the ball the way he's shooting the ball, there could be. He has monster games against Duke. There could be something there. There could be something there, and then maybe it's just a first-team All-American. Again, I don't actually expect Zach Edey to let the award slip out of his hands, but yeah, RJ Davis being just 6 foot tall, 6'1", whatever he's listed at, not a tall guy. And him leading Carolina on the run they should have been on last year, and he's not doing it single-handedly, obviously, but just putting up monster numbers and scoring the ball at the level he's scoring it at I'm throwing him on the vibes list. Tier 3 is no chance whatsoever, but having a great year and deserve recognition. LJ Cryer, Houston. Houston number 5 in the country. They were the last undefeated team. We're going to find out soon enough what the move to the Big 12 looks like for them. I still think they're awesome, and they have great culture, and all the advanced metrics seem to love Houston. I mean, it's pretty bonkers when you look at all these algorithms and the way they see it, because they think Houston's way better than everybody else. I don't think that's the case, but I think Houston is obviously up there and deserving of being a top 5 team in the country. And LJ Cryer is also having a great shooting year, as he always does. He's a hell of a shooter. 15 points a game, 41, 39, 87 are his splits. I don't think that's enough scoring, though. I think, like, he's not actually going to win National Player of the Year. You can't be like the guy who's like the offense on the team and average 15 a game and win National Player of the Year. I don't think that's going to happen. But he's a great player, and they have a great team. So shout out to him. And also throw Jamal Shedd on the list too. More of the defensive-minded guy, more of the setup man, obviously, for Houston. But he's averaging 11 points a game, and that's, again, you're not winning National Player of the Year averaging 11 points a game. I don't care how good you are at everything else. I don't care how much Kelvin Sampson tells me that you're the most important player and he thinks you're the best player in the country, whatever. No amount of propaganda is going to get 11 points a game to the National Player of the Year podium. So, but he belongs on the list, and he's obviously a great player. Johnny Broome at Auburn is another interesting one. Auburn 15-2. The computers love him. The voters don't quite yet, just because they haven't really played the marquee guys. But everybody they're playing, they're beating the snot out of. Still have, in all 15 wins, they have won all of them by double digits. And Broome's averaging 15 and 9 a game, almost 2 assists. He's having a great year. It's not going to be enough to the problem with him too is he's a big guy, and like big guys knocking off Zach Edey, it's just like it's going to be a 1-to-1 comparison, and you're just not going to win that battle. So I think like the best chance might be one of these guys. It might be a Tristan Newton or a McCullough or an RJ Davis, a Connect, like guys on the perimeter that are just undeniable. They just go fucking nuts for a month in the season to get us to the finish line. And it's like, we have to vote for this guy at this point. PJ Hall's another one at Clemson, and Jaden LeDee I threw on the list at San Diego State, who was pretty obviously the National Player of the Year. What, like 2 weeks into the season, he was putting up insane numbers. He still is. He's fallen off because how could you not? Like at one point in the year, he's averaging like 32 and 19, and I'm just making up numbers now, but he was just making it up. But yeah, I remember like San Diego State's like first 7 games, he was just putting up comical number, like Wilt Chamberlain numbers. He's still putting up 22 and 9 and 1.5 assists. San Diego State's unranked. I think that'll eventually change. I know they just lost. Was it New Mexico? They lost at New Mexico. I still expect that the Mountain West is going to beat up on each other, and San Diego State will. I mean, they're at the top of the league right now with Utah State, Boise, New Mexico, Colorado State. Yeah, all these teams are going to beat up on each other, and I think San Diego State will end up winning the conference, and that'll help. And I think they'll end up being ranked again. But anyway, that's my list. Those are my national players. Those are my guys that I think could eventually knock off Zach Edey. But for being completely honest, it's just not happening. It's not happening. It's a bummer. It's a bummer that I'm happy for Zach Edey. Great player. How do I say this? I'm not bored by him, TJ, in the sense that like I'm not my father. I'm not an Edey hater. But Zach Edey being as inevitable as he is a little boring. It's just like watching.
Yeah.
I need Connor Griffin here. He's a nerd. It's like watching like fucking Thanos just continue to just like. What did Thanos do? Snap? He just snapped. I just remember Thanos snapped. Is that controversial to say? I like him. Yeah. It's just like it's kind of just like that's the part that's boring to me. Is that like he's become so good that it's just I just want to see his birth certificate. It's like I'm watching like 12-year-olds play basketball, and I'm like, can I see this guy's birth certificate so we can get him out of here and we can go back to like letting everyone else figure out who the best players? Yeah. That's why I'm upset. Is just because. He's so obviously deserving of National Player of the Year. He's so good, but I wanna debate this stuff, and I want to talk it out, and I want there to be some intrigue as to who's going to win, and that matters to me. And this is like the worst National Player of the Year race of all time.
Him losing or getting punked in some scenario though is more entertaining because the expectations are so high that he's just like dominating everybody. That in the event that he does get sunned in a game.
Yeah,
that gets more exciting, I think.
Yeah, he gets dunked on, and then he like kind of like falls backwards and looks like a doofus as he does it, and maybe that clip gets shared enough to where just it's like a smear campaign.
Yeah,
it's like it. It's nothing against Zach. Zach Edey's going to win it. I'm going to be fine with Zach Edey winning it.
Yeah.
This is not going to be. I think it'll age well too. I think there might be like a slight fear from some college basketball fans that this is going to be another Oscar Tshiebwe situation where we're just like immediately like, why the fuck did we give 2 National Player of the Year awards to that guy? I think he's deserving, and I think it will age well, and I think he's a great basketball player. I'm just like bored by. I'm bored by it, and I'm bored by like him fouling and getting fouled on every play as well, and like that whole thing gets exhausting. Of like. Screenshot Twitter goes crazy because Edey's like turning with his elbow into a guy's chest, but also like if you look at the body, the defender's like pushing him up underneath, and like we're looking at these still shots of like that's obviously a foul on the defender, and it's like, are you fucking out of your mind, dude? That's obviously Edey just pushing him out of the way to create space, and I'm just kind of over that whole experience. I just want to fast forward to March with Purdue. Just give me to March, and let's see what happens then, because they are going to the Final Four, and everything that happens between now and then is just kind of boring to me, except for like the Edey part of it. The Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer experience, that's fun. I like those guys. But the Edey part of it, I've seen enough. I've seen enough. So, quick break to talk about our friends at Body Armor. The Mark Titus Show is brought to you by Body Armor. Real hydration, real ingredients packed with electrolytes, vitamins, and nothing artificial. Body Armor has great tasting flavors like strawberry banana. There's a strawberry banana right there in front of me. And blue raspberry. Not only do we hydrate with Body Armor, but some of the best athletes in the world do as well, like Christian McCaffrey, Joe Burrow, Ronald Acuna Jr., CeeDee Lamb, Bryce Young. My favorite lately has been this cherry lime. I was a strawberry banana guy. I mean, I still am. That's the thing. You go through phases. You like different flavors at different times. I've been drinking a ton of this cherry lime. It is we got it in the. I just moved into the new house. The fridge I have is this has become like kind of my thing. Is I want to have one of those sick ass fridges. I saw Cody. You're a fridge guy. Maybe you're the inspiration. Maybe that's what I got going on. But as we move into the new house, we got like a big old fridge, and I want to get all the drinks right. We've been stocking it up with Body Armor, and I have been just hammering these cherry limes. Highly recommend them. Body Armor is available in stores nationwide, but you can head on over now to Body Armor store on Amazon and get yours today. Body Armor is a great friend of the program. We love them, and I know that you will too. Go get some Body Armor, drink it, and thank me later. All right. Shout-outs before we go. I want to start with this. Big T and I hit 53 free throws in a row today. Like an hour ago, a couple hours ago, right before we started recording this. Big T works on the Macrodosing podcast, hosts it with how many hosts they got on that show, by the way? They got a crew. Big T, I gotta get him on this show now that I think about it. We could just talk about Dalton Connect for hours, me and Big T. We might be the number one and number two Dalton Connect lovers on planet Earth right now. Big T has a silky smooth jump shot. He's got a great natural stroke. Yeah. Probably a pause. But also probably does.
Hey.
He's got just a great his shooting motion is just so smooth, and I identified it very early on when in observing the talent around here and how good guys were at basketball. The Big T is a great pick and pop pickup basketball player. So anyway, there's been some chatter recently around the office about 50 free throw challenge, right? So Big T and I have both identified that we are the two guys that are the best shooters in this office, and if there were a scenario where anybody could make 50 free throws in a row as a team, it would be the two of us. So we set out on a mission a couple days ago where we had a standing appointment every day after the yak ends from 2 o'clock to 2:30. Big T and I would get together, and we would spend 30 minutes trying to make as many free throws in a row. Like we would, and you miss, you obviously start over, but we would just take that 30-minute block, and then once the time's up, it's like, all right, that's the best we could do today. Let's try it again tomorrow. So we came up with this plan on the first day, which was on Tuesday, I believe, was the first time. That was when we came up with the plan, because we were like fucking around shooting, and then we both like kind of looked at each other and we're like, how many free throws do we think we can make in a row? We only got up to 18. We made 18 in a row. That was the highest we could get on Tuesday. And then that's when we looked at each other and we were like, we should practice. We should really invest in this and make the standing appointment and like practice free throws in our spare time and whatever, and like really see how high we can push this thing. There was some talk about like turning it into content, and we were talking to like camera guys and content people here and whatever else, sales. Can we get this sponsor? All sorts of shit. We're throwing out all sorts of ideas. In the meantime, Big T and I were like, we're gonna practice. We'll let the business side handle all of that later. But we're just gonna hit the gym every day at 2 o'clock. We're gonna put up as many free throws in a row as we can, shooting 5 at a time. He shoots 5, makes them. Then it's my turn to go. Then it's his turn. Whatever. And this was our plan. So yesterday was our first attempt in earnest. It was the first attempt where we were like, let's lock the fuck in. Let's take this 30 minutes. Let's see how high we can get it. We got up to 27. We felt pretty good about that on day one. We got really excited. We're like, I think there's some promise here. I think I was the one that missed, by the way. I ended up leaving like number 28 a little short. And we said, we have something here. And Big T looked at me and goes, within the next month, we're getting this. And I was like, oh yeah, I think you're right. I was like, I think we can get this within the next month. And I'll be damned, TJ. It took 24 hours. Today we go out there, and Brandon Walker was trying his damnedest to mess us up. We hit 53 in a row. We hit 53 free throws in a row, and I missed this one as well. I think I was the one that missed the 54th.
Yeah.
So Big T, I mean, I'm holding him back at this point. But we hit 53 in a row. We accomplished it. Now the question becomes, is it done? Do we put it to bed? We set out to climb this mountain. We climbed it very, very quickly. Or do we push for a higher number, and what is that number if so? I don't know.
I think one, you got to do it on camera now. Now, because these were just supposed to be practice runs.
That is true.
These
were practice runs where we were thinking like we turn this into content maybe starting next week or something.
I think you got to do it with the bright lights on. I think this is a perfect thing that is very easy to stream. And two, if 50 got done in 2 days,
100.
What's the number? Is it 100?
100.
Is it 50 and then you go and you set a marker and then that's where you try to beat, or people try and beat that line?
Yeah.
There's legs to this now that it's possible.
Yeah, I know. It's obviously very difficult, but what makes it hard, and I'm not like making it a competition between me and Big T, but I was the one that missed the 54th, but also I hit like 1,000 in a row before then. So what makes it difficult is like you hit if you're I swear to God, I hit like 40, like that was probably that would have been like my 43rd in a row that I made, and I missed it, which I missed it, and the point is to make the free throw. But we had a stretch there, and where Big T was the one breaking the stretch, where we get up to like 8, and then he'd miss, and then we get up to like 15, and he would miss, and then on this one I missed, and I'm not saying, again, I'm not trying to make this a competition or whatever, but like I'm pointing out that like even when you're dialed in, all it takes is one to fuck the whole thing up. And but that kind of makes it compelling too at the same time. It's because like I'm the one. It doesn't matter that I was making all of these in a row. I was the one that fucked up the streak, and you don't want to be the one that fucks up the streak. But that was the thing when we were talking about it. Is just like you could shoot. If you shoot 95% from the free throw line. I mean, I went out there the other day and shot 50 just to see how many I could hit out of 50. I hit 46, and I walked off the court like mad at myself. And I was like, that's such a weird – I shot 92% from the free throw line, and I was like, damn, dude, you could do better. Yeah, I don't know. The psychology of it's incredible, but Big T and I are awesome, and we rule, and we accomplish greatness. And I think we got to get our own trophy. I got to make a trophy to rival the Chili's 3 for me 3-point contest that I've already won. If we hit 100, dude, that is just legend status. The NBA record for most by one team is like 40 something, I think. So I think Big T and I, if we were an NBA team, we just set a record. We're better than every NBA team that's ever existed ever. So there's that to consider. Other shout outs. RIP the Bill Self special. Kansas went to Stillwater and beat the piss out of Oklahoma State. Which I said could happen. I didn't say it would happen. So that's not a wrong take. It could have. It just didn't. But yeah, the Bill Self-Sped. That's how you know Oklahoma State's bad, when they can't even compete with Kansas when Kansas comes to Stillwater. Shout out to Donovan Clingan. He's back for UConn. Came off the bench the other night, working through his foot stuff, his lower body injuries, plural, that he's dealing with. But yeah, it's good to see him back, because this is big of me. I'm gonna say it. I don't like injuries. I don't like to see guys even on teams that I may or may not like. I across the board, I do hope that every college basketball player stays healthy all year. So Donovan Clingan, I'd love to see him back. Want him to be a part of UConn as they go for another national championship. And to be completely honest, if they're going to win another national championship, they will need him. And lastly, last shout out I have is I had a premonition, a dream, a vision, whatever you want to call it, the other day, that Indiana State's going to the Sweet 16. So I just want to go on record and put that out into the ether that I don't know what, I think it was a dream. I think I went to bed and literally had a dream that Indiana State, and this isn't Larry Bird Indiana State, this is this current iteration of Indiana State, was in the Sweet 16. So do what you want with that information. But I had a vision 2 nights ago that the Sycamores were playing to go to the Elite Eight. Now, I don't remember if they won or lost the Sweet 16 game, but I had a premonition that they made the Sweet 16, and that checks out, dude, because Indiana, this is a fun Indiana State team. I can't sing their praises enough. If you're looking for a small school to support, and I know my audience skews towards the Midwest and skews towards the state of Indiana. If you're an IU fan that's given up on your boys, if you're a Notre Dame fan that's gotten impatient with Shrewsbury, in year one, and you're like, I'll check back in when he's built the program, and because we suck right now, go watch Indiana State, dude, because they are They are a ton of fun. So, and they're going to the Sweet 16, and Purdue's going to the Final Four. And that's all I have for the state of Indiana. I don't know what Butler's going to do. Can't really speak on any other programs, but Purdue will go to the Final Four, and my dreams say that Indiana State will go to the Sweet 16. So there you have it. Anything else before we go?
I had two things. There's finally a player that's made me try and look at anything Overtime Elite related. I don't know if you've seen this kid, Eli Ellis.
Yes, the white kid.
He is cold. He was the last pick in the Overtime Elite draft, which, by the way, there's an Overtime Elite draft. But he's 6 foot tall. Yep. He's a South Carolina commit. He's averaging 33 points a game.
Yeah, he's
the lead leader in points per game. He set the all-time Overtime Elite record for points in a game twice this season. He had 50 in a game last week. He's incredible. I don't know how he's scoring this one.
And he's doing it in a way where he's a little saucy with it.
Yes.
Yeah, he's not a fundamental basketball player.
No, they had a guy guarding him from the top of the key, a 7-foot guy, and he beat him at the rim somehow. He's very much an ego player, but he's electric.
That's incredible. That's a great shout out. Yeah, we should have called attention to this guy before. Maybe I'll do a cold ass white boy up there. I need to do the fraud power rankings. We'll maybe do that next week too.
He's taking over social media too. He's all over their socials, and like I said, Overtime Elite usually doesn't phase into my algorithms, but
yeah, I'll support that. I'll support that's what Overtime Elite should be though. Is just like dudes going off.
Yeah,
Is that no, that was fine, right? Go on. Yeah, okay. I don't know. Being around you, man, you got to keep your head on a swivel. All right, that's the show. Thank you to my father for not answering my calls and making me do this show by myself when I wanted him to come on the show and be my guest. Thank you to everybody watching, listening. Subscribe, like, comment for the algo, do all that sort of thing. Let's get those numbers up. We're getting ready for the March Madness push here, and we're gonna have some fun with that. I need your help with all of that. So let's like this shit and leave a 5-star review, and you guys know how all that works. Every little bit helps. It means a lot to us, and we appreciate you sticking with the show, and we will see you on Tuesday.